By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to get hired as a Scrum Master even if you don't have any experience. We're going to talk about 2 secrets, 2 Scrum Master hiring process secrets that most people are unaware of. If you recently spent some time on job posting websites looking at Scrum Master jobs, you might have realized that most of these jobs look for people with 2 to 5 years experience as a Scrum Master. That's the requirement prior to applying. That's all good, but what if you're a new Scrum Master without any experience? How are you supposed to get these 2 to 5 years experience as a Scrum Master if you need experience to apply for a job? How are you supposed to do that? And because of this, most people, they don't apply. 99% of people, they don't apply to these Scrum Master jobs because they don't have any experience and they have no way of getting this experience. Well, that's the wrong approach. Most hiring managers keep an open mind if they feel that the person, the candidate, would be a good fit for the company, for the Scrum Master role. That's the goal. That's the goal of a hiring manager, not finding the best resume, but finding the best person for the job to fill in the requirements that they have for the job. And luckily for you, this means that even if your resume doesn't contain all the requirements in the experience section, you might still be called for an interview simply because you framed your resume in a way that shows that you might be the best fit, the best candidate for this position. I'm going to show you how to do this in this video. Contrary to what some people choose to believe, the Scrum Master role is not an entry-level position. It's not. We shouldn't be expecting companies to hire people, Scrum Masters, fresh off the street, with no experience whatsoever. Obviously, there's some companies that hire junior Scrum Masters, but hard to find these companies. And these companies, most of the time, they hire these Scrum Masters internally. People already working for the company getting promoted as Scrum Masters or even project managers converting to Scrum Masters. That's why it's so hard to get experience as a Scrum Master, to find a job as a Scrum Master, because it's not an entry-level position, but still possible. Well, if you know what you're doing. Which brings me to big secret number 1. Resumes are screened by computer. Most people are not aware of this or simply ignore this fact. They believe that when they submit their job application to these job posting websites, there's a hiring manager who's reading all the resumes one after the other. Doesn't work that way. There's a computer, an algorithm that really scans all the resumes looking for keywords, specific keywords related for our position, Scrum Master role, Scrum artifacts, sprint planning, daily Scrum, Scrum Master, backlog, product backlog, refinement, continuous improvement, the 3 pillars of Scrum. All these keywords are searched for by this algorithm, and the best resumes are then sent for the hiring manager to actually read. The rest simply ignored. Do not underestimate this fact. This computer scanning your resume. It's extremely important that you go through your current resume and ensure that all the keywords related to Scrum Master are in your resume. Else your resume will simply be ignored. What I suggest doing is opening the Scrum Guide, the latest version, the 2020 version of the Scrum Guide, the events, the artifacts, the reports, iteration, burn down chart, burn up chart, all the things related, all the keywords, popular terminologies of Scrum. Ensure that these are added to your resume. Find somewhere to add them in your resume, and this will ensure that this computer, this algorithm, will pick up your resume, and your resume will be noticed by the hiring manager. That's the first step. What's the use of really having the best resume in the world if you don't have these keywords and your resume is simply ignored by a computer? Don't underestimate that. Another big secret is that only 10% or roughly 10% of a Scrum Master role is related to Scrum, is related to the Scrum Guide. You might be shocked to know this. Most people don't know this, but come on. The Scrum Guide is like 13 pages long, including the table of contents. 13 pages. How hard is it to memorize? Really understand 13 pages. Anyone can do that in a few days or a few weeks. Well, at least if the person puts in the hours, that's only 10%. For only 10% of a Scrum Master role, the other 90% is related to soft skills. That's what a Scrum Master is all about. These important, crucial soft skills. hard to build compared to reading 13 pages long. A 13 pages long guide for soft skills require years or even decades to get at the expert level or a level required by a Scrum Master. This is where your focus should be on. And hiring managers, they know that. They know that a resume needs to contain all these soft skills in order to get noticed, in order for them to notice this person, in order to know that this person is a good Scrum Master. Most beginners or people who don't know anything about Scrum, they don't even mention soft skills in the resume. They think that Scrum is about Scrum. And the cool part is that most of these skills are transferable skills, or at least the most important ones are skills that you've built throughout the years of experience in your personal life, in your past jobs that you can just transfer to the Scrum Master role. Skills like servant leadership, empathy, problem solving, communication, persuasion, teaching, coaching. Again, if you don't have much experience or any experience as a Scrum Master, you should be focusing on these soft skills in your resume to really stand out. And talking about experience, I see many people falling into the trap of leaving the experience section in their resume empty, blank. They don't fill it in simply because they have no experience or not much experience. That's wrong. For example, I recently read a resume which contained the following phrase in the Scrum Master Experience section of the resume. I'm still looking for my first official Scrum Master job. I'm very passionate and eager to start. And under the Experience section, the person wrote car salesman and developer. Come on. Who's going to read that? What would make the hiring manager really impressed and pick you for an interview while reading this kind of resume? It's so generic. Everyone does that. You shouldn't be doing that. You should stand out. Instead, reframe it. Reframe it. You might not have any Scrum Master experience, but in the past, maybe you have worked in a company that used Agile. Maybe you have worked in a Scrum team, in a self-managed team. Maybe you led a self-managed team. Maybe you were a tech lead in this team. Do you have all the skills that were mentioned earlier, the soft skills? Are you good at communicating, at persuading? Tell them in the resume. Are you good at facilitating? Maybe you replaced a few times. You acted as a Scrum Master in your previous job. All these things need to be mentioned in your resume. If you are not a Scrum Master, if you don't have any experience as a Scrum Master, it's much better. But coach, what if I'm fresh off the street? I don't have any experience. What should I do? You're making this really hard for me. But still, it's possible. Agile and Scrum can literally be applied anywhere. Read the Agile Manifesto, the 4 values, the 12 principles, and start with your job. Use Agile, use Scrum, the Scrum framework in your job, and document the process. Next, use it in your personal life. If you can't use it at work, or even if you can use it at work, you need also to use it in your personal life. Agile and Scrum in your personal life. You can watch this video to know how to do that and document the process. Extremely important. Just imagine going into an interview. You don't have any experience as a Scrum Master. You're going to an interview. The hiring manager, when hearing your stories of you implementing Agile and Scrum at your current job, in your personal life, everything documented, you're really using that. You're super creative on how you use that. Read articles on how to do that. Watch my videos on how to do that. The hiring manager has to be impressed. You did that in your current job. Nothing to do with Agile, nothing to do with Scrum. You were able to implement that in your personal life. In your relationship, you're using Agile, you're using Scrum. So creative, the hiring manager will really be impressed by you and you will get the job. As simple as that. A good starting point would be to rephrase your resume. If your resume looks like the horrible resume that we shared previously, you need to rephrase it. You need to reframe it. Maybe you're a developer. Instead of writing 5 years software developer in X company, write 5 years as a developer in an Agile environment. You worked 3 years in a Scrum team, in a cross-functional, self-managed, self-organized team. You acted as a product owner. You acted as a Scrum Master. You were facilitating sessions. You implemented Scrum and Agile in your previous jobs. You're using Agile and Scrum in your personal life for the past 3 years. And you can show that. You can document that. You have a blog documenting this. You have videos on YouTube documenting this. All these things really put power behind your resume and impress hiring managers, and you will be picked in an interview. And the interview process will be fun because you can share all these stories and impress the people interviewing you. Which brings me to my next point. If you want more tips, insights on Agile Scrum personal growth, click on the video that stands out the most on the screen right now, and I'll see you in a few seconds.